everybody, this is Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor, and today we're driving the 2022 Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid limited all-wheel drive, a car we've driven a similar variant to before. We drove just the regular hybrid Tucson, but you can also have it in plug-in form, so that's what we have today. This is powered by a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine combined with that electric motor, making about 261 horsepower. Pretty good little package here. I always like when companies try and make these compact SUVs, compact crossovers, whatever you want to call them, look slightly unique, and the very angular bodywork on this Tucson is really helping it stand out in the class for me. This cool strip taillight across the back, these angular taillights, the actual bodywork of the car, the way the quarter panel goes into the rear door, this line right here off the front fender, it's all very cool, and like I said, it makes it stand out among some of the other jelly bean crossovers in this class. So to Hyundai, thank you for making this thing look just a little bit different. And overall, besides just looking different, I think that it looks good as well. Here's your charging port over here on the passenger side. This is, of course, where you charge your electric battery. It's got about 33 miles of range. That fits. There we go. And then on this side, you can't pop this one open, but that's where you put your petrol. So it's cool. It's actually symmetrical to either side. Popping into the back here, where you can see I've accidentally left 2 of my jackets for some reason. Quite a bit of storage under here. Nice little compartments here for our tire mobility kit and other things. This big piece of foam also lifts out if you needed it to. And up front here, we've got our actual charger to charge the car if you were to charge it at home. Speaker back here. That's how we fold our seats down. I actually like those. They feel quite nice and solid. 12-volt outlet back here as well. Ooh, slipped a little on that. Let's go ahead and close this. I don't know, what do you think? Is there enough time for your dog to run away? Interestingly, our Hyundai badge is on the window. I don't think that looks too bad, actually. It gives more room for that taillight to go across, and I think it benefits the styling quite nicely. I think, honestly, they could do without the Hyundai badge at all. I don't think that would look bad. Interesting look here, too, on our reflector light. It's one singular piece, but it's interrupted here by this little design in the middle. Lots of interesting touches here on this Tucson. All right, so with that seat folded down, we do actually have quite a bit of room back here. It does not go completely flat, but flat enough to where pretty much anything is going to be practical in here. Another little lever down here to fold it up. You do have to get the seat belt here out of the way, and it can go directly up and down, or of course you can recline it back to more of a normal position. Let's go around to the other side and we'll see how much room we have in this back seat. All right, sitting back here right now, this has comfort access, so this seat is about an inch or 2 back further than it would normally be. In fact, this one's actually probably pretty accurate to how the driver's seat is. And I do have plenty of room back here, honestly. As you can see here, got plenty of leg room, plenty of headroom as well, even with this big panoramic moonroof. Pretty nice. We've got little lights over here on the side for reading, hooks for your linen jackets, USB ports. We don't have our own climate control panel back here, but that's okay. We do have some vents that you can control and point at yourself, as well as an armrest with 2 cup holders. And we've got a cup holder in either door panel as well. So you've got room for 4 drinks back here. 2 beverages per person, or 2 people get... What am I saying right now? Or if you've got 3 people back here, I guess that would mean that, well, one of you could have 2 beverages. Anyways, nice little seat back storage areas that will probably get stretched out over time, but they're nice and tight right now. Listen to that. Little sneak peek of the driver's compartment and front seat area. Let's go ahead and hop up there right now. Oh, forgot to mention, in this limited trim, you get heated rear seats. Check that out. Pretty familiar looking interior here up front. We were just driving the Santa Cruz. Comfort access, thank you. Which is a very similar setup up here to the Tucson. Pretty straightforward stuff up here. Very familiar looking Hyundai steering wheel. This is a heated steering wheel with the limited model, and the whole thing is heated. It's not like a Toyota where you only get the sides heated. But what I found, you see this little metal detail right here? Well, I like to drive like this at 9 and 3. And when you've got your heated steering wheel on, obviously it's cold out. And what does metal do when it's cold out? It gets super cold. So you've got your really warm leather here, and then these little bits of your hand rest on the metal, and it's freezing cold. I know that's kind of a silly journalist complaint, but it is real. You know, when you have your hands on your heated steering wheel, you want it to be all the way hot, which is my complaint with Toyotas. They don't heat the top and bottom. This one is heated all the way around. You've got that cold metal that takes a little bit to warm up just from the heat of your hands. Fully digital cluster here that changes its look, of course, when you go through drive modes, being that this is a Hyundai. We've got those cool carbon fiber gauges in sport mode. I like the look of the gauges in eco mode the best, which is good because that's usually the mode that I drive the car in. We've got wired Apple CarPlay in this Tucson. Funny enough, if you get the base model with the smaller screen, you actually get wireless CarPlay, but this screen has not quite made it to that yet, but it's worth giving up the wireless function because this is a very nice screen here. Everything works very well. We've got our nice chill screen there, and being that this is a plug-in, you've got different settings here for your hybrid battery. You can see your range, your percentage of battery left. It shows you some nearby stations where you can charge, and energy flow. Click on this, you can see that. Pretty cool stuff. And if you're interested in learning more about this infotainment or the Bose audio system, Charlie's sound system test will be linked in the description. Otherwise, in the middle here, this thing sets up kind of high, but it's okay. It's right in your natural position from if you have your arm on the center console here. Push button shifter. We've got all-wheel drive lock. Modes for your hybrid driving, so you've got hybrid, automatic, and EV. Heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, hill descent, parking sensors, parking cameras, which we can view right here. 360 camera with a guided line, and you can zoom in wherever you'd like to zoom in here if you want to look closer at the back of the car or the sides. So these cameras normally pop up in the cluster, but you can also have them here in the middle. Cool, heated and cooled seats over there as well, obviously. USB port and an extra one just for charging, as well as a 12-volt outlet there. We do have a separate climate control panel here. There aren't physical controls on it, but everything seems to work just fine. It reacts very quickly without any delays, as you can see here. No problem there. And let's get to the elephant in the room here. This Tucson does not have a volume knob on the limited trim. You get just this flat panel, but luckily we have a physical control here on the steering wheel that you can use to control your volume and press to mute, which is very, very convenient. Honestly, the 3 days I've been driving this, I have not even used these volume buttons. I've only been using this physical control here on the steering wheel. Otherwise, driver aids here, we'll get more into those once we're on the road. Power open there for our tailgate. And otherwise, I mean, that's really about it. It's a nice, simple, usable interior that feels very light and airy in here. The panoramic moonroof and the light-colored headliner certainly help it in that aspect. All right, guys, well, what do you say we take this Tucson plug-in hybrid out on the road and see what it's like to drive? Ding letting us know we're in reverse, and you can actually hear the car making its noises. See the swivels even on our front line there. Hyundais are very loud. I should say electric Hyundais are very loud when they're in reverse. Which isn't a bad thing. I've almost been run over by many electric cars. They are dangerous when they're at low speeds. They sneak up on you. I remember the days of when I worked as a porter at the Ford dealership. C-Maxes in particular were so quiet. They would sneak up on you. You look back and there's a C-Max like a foot from you. You have to jump out of the way. But not with a Hyundai. They make sure when they're in EV mode, they are plenty loud. And speaking of EV mode, hello squirrel, why don't we go ahead and start this review in electric mode? This is a true electric mode. It will get up to whatever speed you want it to within reason. I have tested it up to 60 miles an hour and it has stayed in EV mode the entire time. It of course isn't fast in electric mode, but it gets you up to speed at a very normal pace. You could easily drive in just normal traffic in EV mode. We've got about 33 miles of range with the battery in this Tucson. Yes. We're driving now as an EV. I love the noises that EVs make when they come to a stop. It sounds like a spaceship. Let's go into automatic mode here. That's kind of like the smart mode. It'll sense whether it's smart for you to be an EV, or if you're hard enough on the accelerator, it'll put you back into your ICE mode. Cruising now in EV mode. Overall, driving dynamics of the Tucson, it's pretty nice. You know, the ride is smooth, not the smoothest I've ever felt. The actual steering wheel, the feel in the hands, it's a bit of a thin wheel, but that's okay. The steering feels actually pretty nice. It weights up nicely in the corners. Pretty confidence-inspiring. And the car itself feels quite small and nimble. It feels quite a bit smaller than a RAV4, and it's about the same size. So from a driving perspective, I actually prefer it. Coming into the first corner here. Yeah. This thing corners pretty flat. I'm pretty impressed by the handling on this Tucson. Coming in behind the Modelo truck. Not sponsored, but maybe someday. That looks very cold and refreshing on this nice sunny day. Anyways, getting off topic here slightly. Otherwise, interior comforts are quite nice. Heated and cooled seats. The seats themselves are very comfortable. And this is one of those cars that it's easy to drive. It's easy to get in, know how everything works. You don't have to search for any functions of anything. It's all very self-explanatory and easy. And that's the point of these cars, because they're not necessarily meant for people that are enthusiasts. They're meant to just be everyday drivers for people that need to commute to work, want something comfortable and easy to drive. And this Tucson, of course, does a really good job at that. And it's just a really nice car to drive. There's a smart car right there. Interesting vibes today on the test route. Modelo truck and smart car there in the same scene. Check that out. All right, let's stop and do an acceleration. We'll let the Modelo truck get on out of the way, and we'll switch this into hybrid mode. So we've got our full power here, and let's go ahead and put this into sport mode, and I'll try out using the paddle shifters as well. Why not? Doesn't let you brake torque it here, so we'll just go ahead and go from a stop. Unfortunately, it won't let you rev it past 5,000-ish RPM. The paddle shifters aren't really for performance driving, because the car kind of decides when it wants to shift anyways, but at least you have them there for manual control. Of course, with the push-button shifter, we don't have any sort of slapstick down here, so having them on the steering wheel is nice, but I probably wouldn't use them. In fact, this is probably only the second or third time I've used them at all while I've been driving this car. Sport mode sharpens up your throttle quite a bit. That's about it. Let's try driving a little bit in smart mode. Back into automatic on the gearbox. Speaking of the gearbox, I appreciate that Hyundai actually puts just a traditional transmission, this is a 6-speed auto, into their hybrids and even plug-in hybrids. The problem I found with Toyotas, even though the CVTs in those, they aren't bad, just the combination of everything, the CVT with that 2.5 liter you get in the Toyotas, it's often a very noisy powertrain, and it can seem a little bit strained at times. And in this Hyundai, it's just very quiet and effortless, and I can appreciate that. in this car. I also appreciate the fact that when your hybrid battery is depleted, this thing just drives like a normal Tucson. You don't have that specific powertrain, that specific transmission that's tailored to a hybrid. It just drives like a normal Tucson with a 6-speed automatic. Thank you, Ford Taurus, for cutting that nice and close. And then braking as well. That's very, very polite of you. Well, now that we're on the highway, it's a good time to demonstrate my favorite part of Hyundais and Kias, which is the steering / lane keep assist. I mean, this system just does it all for you. Holds the corner here. We've also got radar cruise, to where you can just be hands and feet off and this thing will just drive for you. I always love having Hyundais and Kias for long road trips because they take quite a bit of stress off of you. See how long that took to yell at me? It's absolutely fabulous. Get all this stuff turned off now as we turn off the highway. Good feel through that brake pedal. Companies have come so far getting their brake pedal feel in hybrids to just feel like a normal car. And this Tucson is no exception. We've got good brake pedal feel throughout, no matter what mode you're in. And of course I mention that because this has regen braking. So you do get a little bit of charge into that battery under braking, and it's demonstrated right here on the right side of our digital display, or our cluster rather. See, under braking we go full into charge. Good stuff. So what about price? Well, this particular Tucson, this is the limited all-wheel drive plug-in, so it is the absolute top of the line trim you can get on this plug-in Tucson. It's about $42,000 base. This one with destination everything out the door, it's about 43 grand. You can have the Tucson plug-in at the slightly lower trim model for about 35 grand. So if you don't care about all of the things in here, all of the heated, cooled leather stuff, you can have this car for about 35,000. And when you consider cars like the Toyota Rav4 Prime, that's a pretty expensive vehicle. In fact, the one we were driving was touching 50 grand. So this one is a little bit cheaper than the Rav4. And, you know, going even beyond that with dealer markups and everything, some dealerships are selling Rav4 Primes for like $70,000, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I hope no one actually pays that. But with that being said, I'm sure you can get into a Tucson for relatively cheap compared to a Rav4 Prime. And in some ways I do actually prefer the Tucson. The driving dynamics, the feel of the interior, it's not quite as solid feeling as the Toyota, but it's lighter, it's airier, and it feels a bit newer. It feels more updated than the Toyota. Driving wise, handling characteristics, I prefer the Tucson, but straight line speed, that Rav4 is actually very quick. It does 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. This one's a little bit slower. That doesn't really matter too much for a car in this class, but the Toyota would be my choice if I, for some reason, needed to pick a car for speed. It would be the Toyota. Overall, though, I'm honestly kind of leaning towards the Tucson, even though this one needs an alignment. I don't know if you guys have noticed. During the review, I've been driving like this, going in a straight line. Whoever was driving this before us must have hit a pothole, and it's in need of an alignment. That is straight, and the wheel is turned quite a bit. That's okay, though. It happens this time of year in Michigan. The roads are just an absolute minefield. So then, what's my verdict on the Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid? I mean, just circling back to what I said earlier, I can appreciate when companies can differentiate cars in this very, very diluted class of compact SUVs. I like the styling, the angles, they all work for me. It helps set this thing aside. I like the way it drives. I like that it has a traditional 6-speed automatic. I like the way the interior is set out, besides not having a volume knob. Other than that, everything in here is very user-friendly. It's all laid out in a very self-explanatory manner. It's comfortable. I mean, I don't really have any complaints with this thing, other than, I mean, the plug-in aspect is not necessarily needed. You could just have the normal Tucson hybrid and save a couple bucks in that department. Or the Rav4 Prime, if you can actually find one that's not being sold for $1 million over MSRP. But honestly, if I think I were to have to choose between this and the Rav4, after spending a few days in this, I would have this. So there you go. That's my verdict and test drive of the Tucson plug-in hybrid. Interesting that the comfort access moves you back after you've already touched the door handle. That's an interesting feature. Wonder if you can set it to change that. One last little walk around here, and that'll be it for us today. All right, guys. Well, as always, thank you so much for watching. This has been Christopher Brower with Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.